Welcome back, Oscars Republic. It's your Coruscant Underworld Police Chief, Sick P Gaines. I wanted to talk about something that's been popping up more and more, and it's getting to. I don't want to say it's getting to the point where it's controversial, but it's getting to the point where it's very divisive. And I've been seeing a couple of arguments amongst suitors of both sides pop up here, there, and everywhere. So I'm going to lay out the groundwork of the two options. I haven't really made up my mind just yet, but I'll allow you guys the opportunity in the comment section to kind of voice your opinion, and maybe you guys can argue it out, because I just love it when people are so angry that they yell at each other on the internet. Isn't that the best use of our time? All right. So what's the argument that AP is laying out here today? So obviously, we know best thing to do to your roster is you start, you go core 8, you go a couple of auxiliary teams, you get some get 2 ships. Oh yes, farm your Sith ships, by the way. And you're kind of all right, you're all dandy, and you're doing fantastic. You hit about 2.5, maybe 3 million galactic power. I don't know why I said that weird. You hit 2.5 to 3 million GP, and you're kind of at a crossroads. Do you open up with a galactic legend? Do you open up with an S tier ship, usually the Executor? It can be a hard decision. And recently, I've kind of backed away from my own rigid stance that Galactic Legend is better, because I just don't care. To be perfectly honest with you. I can show you what's most efficient, but you can do whatever you want, because it's a game at the end of the day. And as long as you're not spending, $40, $50, $60, $70,000, you're never going to be as good as you want to be. And we just kind of have to have as much fun as humanly possible. That being said, I'll go over pros and cons of both, let you guys make your decision. Maybe I'll convince myself one way or the other at the end here. But let's start with ships. So you have your core 8 teams, you have a couple of get 2 ships. Like you're in a strong position, but you don't have that oomph, right, to climb. You're not at the point where you have any backbone teams or Galactic Legends or S tier ships, so you don't really have that punch up power. Unfortunately, we need to get there. So let's say you start with the Executor, right? Usually the most common. I find it's the easiest to get. Doesn't require, a couple of weird characters and R8s and R9s and stuff like that. It does require R8s, but there's no R9s. And just widely considered to be an easier ship to get. It's also a little bit better on defense in those early to mid GAC brackets. For whatever reason, it just seems to do better than the Profundity at low stars on defense with not optimal relics and stuff like that. What is it good at? Obviously, you're going to get, your crystal payout. One thing that I keep forgetting to do is I keep forgetting to take my Profundity out and put back in my Executor on defense, because the Profundity is not great on defense when every single person has an R9, like full R9 Executor team, and apparently someone has a Thrawn team, which is kind of baller, I'm not going to lie. I'm sure he just climbed and then switched it out just as a meme, but when you're facing full max relic Executors and Profundities and stuff like that with the occasional 4-star, 5-star Profundity, you're going to fall. But that being said, the Executor is going to be fantastic in those earlier accounts that are sub 3 years old to get, first place in Grand Arena, or not first place in Grand Arena, but first place in Fleet Arena. You're going to get more crystals. It's going to allow you to open up potential for stronger fleet defenses, leading to more crystals in Grand Arena. All around a fantastic decision to get that Executor as early as possible, right? What are the cons? What are you giving up? Well, obviously you're giving up some characters, but realistically, if you're strong in the core 8 and the auxiliary, your characters are likely fine, and then ships tend to be the mid-game meta, as we all know. The early game meta is just how many teams do you have? If you have more teams, you win. The mid-game meta is how many ships do you have? If you have better ships, you win. The end-game meta is how much money do you have? If you have more money, you win. So ideally, you would say that farming the Executor over a original Galactic Legend would be a fantastic idea, because it allows you to play into that mid-game meta as you approach that mid-game 4 million GP mark. It's funny to say that 4 million is mid-game at this point, because that's kind of when the game starts. You can't do Conquest, can't do Proving Grounds, so 4 million. It feels like the new level 85 has been for a long time, 4 million GP, but it's still mid-game, until we get 20 million GP. But that would make sense conceptually. What are we giving up a little bit expanded? And this is going to kind of bleed into the argument that I still personally believe, I think, that going that Galactic Legend first is going to be the way. The reason I say that is you can always come back and get the Executor second, as we know. But what I do like more so now as far as time is concerned, like obviously when you don't have the executor, you're probably top 10, but you're probably not top 1. So you're missing out on 200 crystals or something like that every day, which can be terrible, and that's going to add up over a long period of time. Obviously, there is no perfect world, or else I would not have a video where I'm talking about pros and cons. I would just tell you what to do. But with the Galactic Legend, especially as you approach that 4 million GP mark, what it does open up for you is Proving Grounds and Conquest. And I know a lot of people hate both of these game modes, and trust me, I do too. I think they're poorly constructed, and I hate them very dearly. But what I do like is winning, and they do allow you to win. Obviously, Razor Crest is free to play farmable, but it does allow you to accelerate Razor Crest, which can help alleviate some Executor. So there's that. Gives you Cat. So if you open up with JMK, you can have the best Galactic Legend in the game. It gives you Maul, who's a fantastic character, great backbone team. We don't talk about him. The TIE Interceptor, the #1 value character in the entire game. Darth Malgus, and then after Darth Malgus, I think we get Ben Swallow. What you'll notice here is that these are all very, very difficult, and usually, if you want a 3-star and do all that stuff, I'm going to be honest with you, it kind of requires a Galactic Legend, unfortunately. You can beat them, and I've beaten all of them except for the Interceptor one with, off-meta, like Core 8 teams. It is possible. It is incredibly difficult and kind of tedious, so it's safe to say that if you have a Galactic Legend, these become much, much easier. And what you notice here is these are like the best things in the game. The Razor Crest is obviously a wreck. For the Cat's, probably still the best character. Well, I guess I think Malgus is officially beaten out Cat as the best Conquest character. Maul is amazing. We don't talk about him, the Interceptor #1 value. And then we're getting Ben Swallow, who is kind of okay when you decide to farm Rey, never. But since these are so locked behind time, like even if you are going to whale, it still takes a long time because you only get so many refreshes. These are so far locked behind time that if you have that Galactic Legend, call it 4 to 6 months earlier than your Executor, even push that out to 9 months, it allows you to compound the best characters in the game, the best backbone teams in the game. And yes, the nice little title update just rolled out. There's a nice little dev post. That's cool. Just came out 2 seconds ago. I just saw it pop up on Discord. What it allows you to do is to start compound your progression into the end game the second you hit the mid game, which seems a little weird. So let me follow along here. So as you're just entering the mid game and you're starting to now worry about the backbones and the Galactic Legends and the S tier ships and stuff like that, it gives you kind of like a little AFK farm in the background to where you're slowly progressing in all of these areas where you can get the best characters in the entire game, right? So it's going to allow you to build up a Maul team. It's going to allow you to build up a Malgus team, which will then lead into Leviathan. It's going to allow you to build up some Razor Crest to help expedite the Executor. It's going to help build you Cat if you went JMK first to make that team better. And even if you didn't go JMK first, let's say you went C or SLKR or JML, it's still going to allow you to have a Cat team with, any light side team, basically. You want to throw it with Padme and you want to beat JMK with Padme Cat, that's fine, right? It's going to allow you to have the Interceptor to turn your F-tier Empire fleet into an A-tier God tier fleet, right? It's going to give you a lot of passive growth so that once you hit that point where you're starting to unlock these characters, at that point when you start to unlock them, let's be honest, you're going to have your first Galactic Legend. You're probably going to also have your Executor or your Profundity or your Leviathan, or depending on how much money you spend or how many crystals you saved or whatever, right? And now you're going to start snowballing to the point where you don't just have the Executor and the Galactic Legend. You kind of have to wait an extra 6 to 9 months to start farming those Conquest characters, because now you can do hard Conquest. So when the next Conquest character comes out that's God tier, you can get it in 4 to 6 months free to play in hard Conquest without having to buy the pass or anything like that. It just opens so many doors to completing, like if I'm gonna be honest, completing the biggest bullshit in the game. The biggest bullshit in the game is Proving Grounds and Conquest, and it opens the door to dominate more hard Conquest. It opens the door to do Proving Grounds efficiently at all levels and add these characters to your roster. So I still firmly believe that opening with any Galactic Legend, if you want to take a terrible, terrible mistake and go SLKR or C first, that's fine. But as long as you open with a Galactic Legend at that 2.5 to 3 million GP mark, by the time you hit 4 million GP, you're going to be able to be much better in those hard conquests. You're going to be able to do much better in those Proving Grounds. And I think you're probably going to enjoy the game a little bit more because you're going to have more teams to play around with in Grand Arena and other game modes. And I just think that, yes, you're going to give up some crystals for 3 to 9 months, depending on what you have, and all sorts of crazy factors. Obviously, farm times are drastically different for everyone. But what you give up in crystals, I think you're going to more than make up for, not only in crystals from GAC wins and climbing GAC ranks, but also I think you're going to make up for it in will to live. I think you're going to make up for it in fun. I think all of that stuff is going to happen. I think you're going to really enjoy the way that your roster develops once you get to that Galactic Legend 4 million GP mark, where you can start to kind of open up the floodgates of the soon-to-be end game for your account. I think you're going to really enjoy that stuff. So let me know what you guys think. I'm obviously not feeling great, so I'm going to rest a little bit and then, drive out to work and get some stuff done with the remaining energy that I do have. As always, I love you, and I will see you later. Oh, click the link in the description. Join the Patreon. Join the Patreon Discord. Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.